What's up, guys? I've got a lot of movies and stuff to cover and movies to watch today and so many videos to do. And to be quite honest with you, even though this video was the one that won the poll of what people wanted to hear about, I don't want to make this video. I don't want to talk about this topic, but maybe it's good to get it off my chest. Next week, apparently, we're going to get the very first Superman trailer for James Gunn's Superman, the first big movie in the alleged DCU, and I thought maybe beforehand it would be a good idea to give my thoughts about how I feel about how James Gunn has handled his role of CEO of DC since he was hired. Now, as somebody who is a longtime viewer of this channel might know, I was vehemently against James Gunn taking on the role of CEO for DC. I was actually pretty crestfallen when it happened. And I'm well aware that James Gunn has a base of fanboys who just worship this man, and anybody who says anything, anyone who is even skeptical of James Gunn and what he can do will get a lot of hate. However, I had a lot of reasons to be very, at the very, very least, skeptical of James Gunn getting the role of CEO. And James Gunn, as he's spent way too much time on Twitter as a CEO, we'll get to that in a minute, and he's talked with fans. Once he told somebody who was trying to criticize him that you are in such need of reasons to hate. And I want to say, I'm not in need of reasons to hate or to be critical of him in the role of CEO. There's a difference between finding reasons to criticize someone versus having legitimate reasons to be skeptical, at the very least, of a decision. I was concerned about James Gunn becoming CEO. Why? Number one, he had never been in the role before, and I was concerned about having a creative person be in the role of an executive over everything, because I was concerned not only because of the lack of experience in that role and just taking on so much control, being the writer of all of these projects, being the director. I was also concerned about James Gunn not being able to put aside his biases. Because in a dream world, it would work like this. You have the executive and you have the creator. Let's just use Marvel as an example. You would have Kevin Feige and whatever director he is working on for a Marvel project. And I know that Marvel has overstepped itself with making its executives the sole leaders and decision makers on all the projects, to the point where creatives don't really have much say anymore. But let's just say in a dream world, Kevin Feige is the executive and you have your director. And the director brings about the creative vision for the project. But the CEO is able to make objective decisions to rein in the creative and make the best decisions for the movie based on the audience. Because it would be like checks and balances at that point, right? Now, for example, what I'm talking about in this case is an executive could say, people aren't really interested in that character. We're really trying to build this universe up. We need to focus on these characters. Or in the case specifically of DC, they could say, we have been trudging on in this universe, trying to hold on to these little strands, these actors that people like, in this fractured universe that doesn't really have a continuity, and it hasn't in a long time, as DCEU let go of its Zack Snyder continuity and tried to just Frankenstein it together, and some things would be canon one minute and next minute they wouldn't be, and it was just very, very confusing. An executive should be able to make the objective decisions of that. Doesn't matter if you have these people who are your friends. Doesn't matter if you have these elements that you specifically like or have made. We need to get rid of it and start fresh, because that is the best decision for this universe. And that is what I've thought needed to happen with DC since Suicide Squad 2016, honestly, but especially after everything that happened. My concern with James Gunn was that he wasn't going to be able to let go of his properties and his people in order to forge a new way forward for DC. And that is exactly what happened. James Gunn, and this is going to be a theme throughout the video, it has been a theme, he can't... he has shown nothing but bias towards his people and towards the things that he's made. And to add to that fact, I was worried James Gunn, as a person who has his own tastes in these comic book properties, specifically tastes towards obscure characters and the weird and wacky characters, and essentially just telling Guardians of the Galaxy over and over again that was going to be what his universe is like. And on both accounts, that is exactly what has happened. James Gunn recently said that canon doesn't matter. Why doesn't it matter, James? Well, as we've seen from what he's done with DC so far, they have gotten rid of everything from the DCEU. Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, Ray Fisher, the Zack Snyder stuff, all of it. Except for the stuff that has had to do with James Gunn. Amanda Waller, played by Viola Davis, is still a thing in the new DCU. Peacemaker is still a thing. All of James Gunn's stuff have been favored. Like, all of the other stuff in the DC universe is gone, but James Gunn's stuff has been favored. Well, James Gunn had no problem punting Henry Cavill and Gal Gadot and all those people out. And I agree, those people needed to be let go. Not anything against them, just because it wasn't working out. However, when it comes to someone like, say, Margot Robbie, James Gunn has been very coy, and just listen to like the mental gymnastics in his words about, well, she's not gone, but she's not here, but I might not have to cast somebody else, but I might, not saying that I will, she might play something else. All of that, like, he had no problem getting rid of the people who weren't his people right away. But someone like Margot Robbie, she has a question mark, because she was somebody that he worked with and that he's close with. And I'm not saying anything against Margot Robbie personally. I'm just saying that we see all the stuff from James Gunn's universe has been held onto, and that creates problems going for the new DC universe. Like, it makes me wonder, okay, if the Suicide Squad in the old DC universe is canon, and Amanda Waller and Peacemaker and that version of Harley Quinn are all canon, does that make Suicide Squad 2016 canon as well, where Amanda Waller and Harley Quinn first appeared? Does that make Jared Leto's Joker and Ben Affleck's Batman and Ezra Miller's Flash, all characters that appeared in that movie, canon as well? And even if you say, it's just these pieces that James Gunn made, that doesn't make sense, because Harley Quinn already has her own backstory in that universe that you would be carrying over. But it makes no sense to the mainstream. If the mainstream just doesn't pay attention to someone like Amanda Waller and Creature Commandos and Peacemaker and all of that, fine. But mainstream will remember Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn from 2016 and think that is connected, because that is a very prominent point, and it's something that James Gunn cannot let go of, because these are his people. Now, talking further about James Gunn and his biases, once again, I was worried that he was just going to be show favoritism towards the things that he likes, and that's the obscure characters and the weird things. And once again, that's happened with the fact that only the things that he has worked on are existing in this universe, getting produced by DC. But it's like, apart from the things that were already in the works for years from the Matt Reeves stuff, like the Penguin, what do we have from DC? Well, the only show that still exists from the old regime now, from like the DC Universe streaming service, is the Harley Quinn show, or as I call it, the Not Harley Quinn show. But no one is watching that show. No one talks about it. They were supposed to release that in November, and then they got delayed to January, and they didn't even give the decency until December to admit that it had been delayed. No one watches that show. And a lot of people have been saying, how the heck did this show get on its 5th season? Well, because it's the one show that James Gunn singled out and said that he personally enjoys. It's the one show that he appeared on. It's the one show where they gave him a good favor and allowed him to appear in the show to sort of solidify James Gunn as the DC guy. That's been happening. There's been a very artificial push to solidify James Gunn, not just as the current CEO, but the DC guy, with his appearance in that Harley Quinn show and in Creature Commandos, that little blurb of him riding and then leaning back like he's proud of his work. They've been really trying to do that. So they did him a good favor there on a show that he liked. The Harley Quinn show still exists. There was a Kite Man spinoff that absolutely no one watched, and apparently there's going to be more spinoffs from that show. And the person who worked on that show is also working on Creature Commandos. So that's kind of like, no one is watching all of these R-rated superhero cartoon parodies or Creature Commandos, and they're all the same. And Creature Commandos has a positive score on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm sure that it is liked by the same kind of people who like James Gunn's stuff, because all of it's the same. But that's one of my points, is that like, none of that appeals to me. None of it whatsoever. And I am so... like, that Harley Quinn show is the reason I can't be into the character anymore, because that's what they made her all about. And it's like, if you Harley Quinn is now Harley Quinn is a girl who dates Poison Ivy. That's her entire character now. That's all that matters. That's what that show became. And it's like, you don't like it? Well, you can't be a fan of the character because that's all they put out. So I can't be a fan of that character anymore. And so I'm mad about that. But it's like, this show doesn't even need to exist, and none of these shows like Kite Man and all this stuff have no reason to exist, and there's such an oversaturation now of these R-rated animated shows about DC characters, mostly obscure ones, and it's like, why do these exist? I imagine they're really cheap to make, but no one's watching them. They exist because that's what James Gunn likes, and that's what he wants to produce, and that's what he's mostly put out, apart from stuff that was in the works already from the Matt Reeves universe, which is kind of separate right now. And so that has really turned me off from a lot of this stuff. This is just me being honest. It's turned me off from a lot of this stuff. I don't like this kind of stuff, and that's all he's filled it up with. And so we've seen that James Gunn has had a bias towards his people, his projects, and the kind of obscure characters that he wants to see. I mean, when he did that little blurb when he first got hired about all the projects that they had lined up, most of it was just like obscure characters like Swamp Thing, Booster Gold, a Waller show. Most of those aren't even happening now. But it's like, he's everything I expected him to be, and I don't think that this is the guy who should have run DC. Now, let's talk about his behavior off camera, and just how unprofessional it is, and that just to say that it's really turned me off. James Gunn is not an honest person. Let's just say that. And how he's not an honest person is he likes to hide in the nuance and tell half-truths and in the minutia of things. For example, when Henry Cavill was let go, they weren't going to move forward with him, he just said, oh, he hasn't been fired. He was just never hired. When people said Gal Gadot's been given the boot, he said no, but that, I guess, just meant that he hadn't said anything about her. He's just moving in a different direction, because she definitely does not exist anymore. Wonder Woman 3 is not happening. She is not this Wonder Woman. There's been a lot of times that he has squabbled with insiders and people like that over news from DC. And I'll just give the biggest example of this, of him hiding in the minutia of the truth, so to speak. It was being reported by a ton of insiders that the plot of James Gunn's Superman movie was going to be about a Middle Eastern conflict of some kind, and the characters trying to resolve that. And the reports were that they were moving away from that storyline because of certain events that have happened overseas that would be controversial now. And James Gunn nuked those insiders, as he likes to do, especially Grace Randolph, who was reporting it, and she's the only person with a face, really, that no, never happened. These people are just full of it, and nothing. Like, this is what he does all the time. He'll say, that never happened. None of this is happening. Then James Gunn was outed because an actor who was supposed to be a part of the original Superman movie got let go, and was accusing that they let him go because he's Palestinian. And James Gunn and his PR team were forced to come out and say, no, it's because we had to move away from the original plot. So James Gunn was forced to admit that, yes, the insiders that he was swearing up and down weren't telling the truth, were right, and that he did have to change the plot. Recently, this happened again, where Grace Randolph, who James Gunn seems to have a beef with, she was reporting that there's supposed to be a press event of some kind next week around the 16th, and that it's likely that the Superman trailer could come out then. A fan asked James Gunn, is the Superman trailer coming out the 16th? And he said no. But now we're hearing all over that the Superman trailer will be, in fact, come out next week, and that that's in and around the 16th. So James Gunn likes to hide. Like, maybe it won't exactly come out on the 16th, but it's going to come out in around that time. James Gunn loves to hide, stretch the truth. He loves to stretch the truth. And I have a problem with that because so many times he's nuked, I'm not talking about insiders, but so many times he's nuked fans for having speculations about what he's going to do. Like, is he going to just focus on all these obscure characters? And is this happening or not? And he just has no problem with nuking them from orbit, from his little cloud of being the CEO of this company with a bunch of followers who will eat up everything he says and take his side and just nuke these people with smaller accounts. And it's like, but you do it so oftentimes by lying and stretching the truth so many times when a lot of most of the things that people were concerned about you doing, you did. Like, people were upset that you keep casting your wife and your brother and everything, and you kept swearing up and down that this was just them trying to find reasons to hate. This has nothing to do with nepotism. It does. You put your wife and brother in everything, and they have no career beyond that. We can just call, and once again, this is part of the reason why I'm concerned about a director making decisions versus a CEO, a cold-hearted CEO, because James Gunn kind of handles this whole thing as if he's the director still, and he's just casting all his friends and the things that he personally likes. And that was everything that I thought he would be. And his behavior online has not made me like him anymore or feel better about him in any way. And just as another example of how he's treating this job as an executive as if he's still the director, recently there was a little bit of controversy online because for Creature Commandos, he released a little 5-second clip of one of the actresses who had done an intimate scene in the show of her making the sounds for it. And there was controversy because a lot of people said that they thought that that was inappropriate for him to post. And other people said that you're just a prude. And listen, I am a prude, okay? My problem, if James Gunn had just been the sole director of this show and had posted that with the actress agreeing to it, which he did, then I wouldn't have anything to say about it. I'd stay out of the conversation. But my problem is James Gunn is not just a director representing that one show. He is the CEO of an entire company, an entire brand with like Superman and Batman and stuff. I'm sure Superman's going to be marketed to families. And so that's my problem with him doing that as a CEO, is he's treating all of this the exact same way as he would a director. And, you know, all of his specific tastes as a director, which have usually been really crude. And that's my problem with bringing a guy on board like this to do the entire DC universe. And so Superman teaser is going to come out next week, and I will be unbiased going into it. My job is just to call it like it is as a critic. Is it good? Is it bad? What do I think it's going to turn out to be? Fine. The James Gunn Superman movie, maybe it'll be great, but maybe it'll be terrible because I didn't think that James Gunn was the right guy to do a Superman movie. He originally didn't want to do it until he says he found a way in. Now I'm hearing stuff about the trailer that it might focus on crypto, that it might be a more punk rock thing. And he said that the Superman trailer will not follow his Guardians of the Galaxy style. But this is the big cap off to it all, is he's said so much in the past years that hasn't been true. And while all of your assumptions about him turn out to be true. And so, like, even if Superman is good, and that's the other thing, I don't think James Gunn is a great writer, because if his humor doesn't appeal to you, as it doesn't appeal to me, you get to see the cracks in his writing. I don't think the Guardians of the Galaxy movies are that well written. Even Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, the one James Gunn movie I like, I still wouldn't say that it's that well written to the point where I'm like, yeah, James Gunn should write the entirety of whatever comes forward with DC because he's just that good of a writer. No, he isn't even like this fantastic director. He was just the guy who got Guardians of the Galaxy to work, and he's done that same thing over and over again since. Some people even say that Guardians of the Galaxy was just him copying a Scooby-Doo movie. So I don't, I'll just give my honest opinion on the trailer, but like, I don't really have reason to be optimistic about any of this stuff. And, I don't even think I'm a DC fan anymore. I like Batman specifically, but I'm not really a DC fan anymore because I'm getting tired about being led on by this stuff. And remember, the same people who chose to hire James Gunn thought that Todd Phillips, the guy who did Joker 2 and doesn't want anything to do with DC, they were originally going to they originally offered the role of DC CEO to Todd Phillips, and it was originally going to be just James Gunn by himself before they said bring Peter Safran on, and then he agreed to it. I have no reason to believe that this is going to work out, and even if Superman somehow turns out to be good, I still don't think that this is working out as a universe, especially after he went back. He did this big spread announcing all of these movies he had in the works, and recently he went back on it and said, no, we don't have to be like Marvel. We don't have to make all these things. Probably because it flopped when he announced all of them. And he keeps kicking Marvel down and acting like he's better than them. But it's like, dude, you got to put up or shut up and prove that you can be better than Marvel before you kick them down just to make yourself good before you haven't even proved yourself. I've ranted a lot longer than I thought I was going to. Sorry about all that. But that's just how I feel right now regarding all of this James Gunn stuff. And listen, Gunn fanboys come for me. I don't think that I'm a fan of DC anymore. Not the current day stuff. The cartoons I like. I still like Batman. But this DC train, not into. I'm not hyped about Superman right now. That's just where I'm at. And my worries about Gunn being a CEO have kind of been affirmed. So I guess we'll see where the Superman trailer leads us. But I'm just saying, as of now, I am not impressed with James Gunn as a CEO. Thank you all for watching, though. Thank you, patrons, as always, for supporting this channel. You want to support this channel, check out the link in the description. I have a new short film releasing very soon, and a trailer on that is available on Patreon now to paid membership for now. And I will see you guys next time.